If you're a Toastmaster, you definitely know him. He was the president of Toastmasters International. He was a police officer who later started his own business and now runs several businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, our guest this week is Colonel Mohammad Murad, the founder of Tanseeq Event Organizers, a company that specializes in high end weddings and wedding decorations. Let's welcome Colonel Murad on the Be Your Own Boss podcast. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So, as we always do on the Be Your Own Boss podcast, we start with your story right from the beginning. So, tell us about your parents, your siblings, your childhood memories, what you have.
Yeah, well, it all started in a very old house in Shandaga, if you are aware of the neighborhood Shandaga, which is in Bardubai. Actually, I was born in my grandfather's house. I wasn't born in a hospital. I was born at home. And those days, my grandfather's house housed all the brothers and sisters, including my father. So we were a large family staying in this large house in the beginnings of United Arab Emirates, and it's even before it became United Arab Emirates. It was the Trucial Emirates at that time, Trucial Emirates of Oman. And it was really an extended family that I grew up within. And my father was a police officer by then. So I was born into a police officer family where we shifted from my grandfather's house to the police headquarters. That was on Sharjah Road in Al Qusais. So we lived in the police headquarters for many, many years of my life. And this is where I was exposed to the police officers and the police work, and I was in love with the uniform that my father wore. As I was finishing my schooling, I went into the UAE University, and that was the only university, by the way, at that time in the UAE, Al Ain University. And I went into business administration. A year after that, I heard that there is a cadet cohort coming up within the police academy. We were in the police headquarters. Therefore, news came very easily from that side. So I thought about it, and I was interested into wearing a uniform just like my father. I went to the assistant commander at that time. The headquarter offices was right next to our house. So it was just a minute's walk away. I went to him and I said, I want to join the cadet cohort without informing my father, because my father was away at that time. Okay. And he said, come tomorrow, I will put you into the cadet officer cohort. Went next day, I signed up. I withdrew my papers from Al Ain University and went into the police training. I finished police training and joined the police force. I worked 8 years in the criminal investigation department. So as soon as I graduated, I worked 8 years in the criminal investigation department, and then I was transferred to the ambulance department, where the ambulance was under the police at that time. So I ran the ambulance department for around 12 years. And then it was time for me to ask for voluntary retirement. And I did so after 20 years of service. And I started my business, Tanseeq Event Organizers. and we specialized in weddings. So if you look at the shift from being a police officer
Yeah.
to someone who actually decorates weddings,
How
that
did
was a
that how did that thought come about when you were working in the police for 20 years,
right.
and as a policeman, the life is completely different from business or weddings, right? So when do you remember the first time that idea struck in your head that you want to start your own business?
Mm. Uh, to be frank with you, when I wanted to apply for voluntary retirement, and I did that probably 3 times. It was rejected twice, but I was insistent, and they agreed to it. The third time, uh, I had no idea what I wanted to do after I get out from the police force. By the way, no idea,
Okay.
and probably those days UAE nationals were those people who never saved and never thought financial planning. So I retired with nothing else but the pension uh, in my bank account. Uh, During my police career, I actually managed. I dropped out of college, but I understood while I was running the ambulance department and leading teams, I understood that education has a great value. Therefore, I actually went back to school. And while I was working, I finished 2 master's degrees, a master of business administration and another master of quality management. And as I retired, I was thinking, what kind of business could I get into? And I think my master's degrees helped me in doing a market analysis, doing feasibility studies, and those days there was very little barriers to entry in events, and specifically in wedding design and decor.
Right. What year are
So,
we talking about here? Which
sorry.
year is this? What
That
year
was
are we talking?
2003. I retired 2003 and I started the business in 2003.
Wow.
So, yeah, so, what do you do? When you're starting a business, you make a feasibility study and you give it to uh, an entity for you to get finance. And I didn't have any money at that time. So there was a program which was called Tumuh. طموح translate, this is an Arabic name, it translates to ambition. This was through one of the banks here, and they actually gave loans to aspiring businessmen who wanted to start their own business. So I prepared the document and I submitted it to the bank. I remember that probably what I needed uh, in terms of amount was around 1 million dirhams at that time to start the business properly and sustain it and be able to grow it. So I submitted with a lot of confidence, master degree holder and uh, someone who might be respected uh, for what I have studied and what I have done. Submitted it to the bank, and I get a reply in around a week or so. They said, your study is good, but there is no way we are going to give you 1 million dirhams. You are going to get 250,000, and that's it, with the provision that you repay it without interest, because that was the niche about the program, without interest, but you need to repay it to us. And I thought a bit about it, and I did take the money at that time. I managed to gather up a few tens of thousands from here and there from family, And I had a little bit of amount also with me. So I started the business. I started the business with three people. There was a designer, a carpenter, and a painter. And we started. My wife is my partner, by the way. She is my partner in all the businesses that I have, and I'm thankful for that because she takes care of the creative part. I take care of the finance, marketing, business part of things. So we started with three people, and we started doing very small weddings. Uh, it was very hard for me. Someone who was a lieutenant colonel in the police who was running a team of 1,000 people, and this was the time that I had to, because we didn't have manpower. I had to get a paintbrush, and go under the catwalk or the stage, and start brushing because we were running out of time for certain events and we needed to finish.
Wow, you did it
Yeah.
yourself.
Well, I did a lot of things myself.
Wow.
It was tough, but at the same time, a lot of people say how police officer could adapt to something like that. But I think the police training, the police discipline helped a lot in me being focused and being able to say that if I had the discipline, I will be able to carry through whatever I plan to do. Slowly, the business grew. We were getting known. Not only in the UAE, but also in the whole Gulf, because we were doing weddings in the Gulf. We got invitations to do weddings in other countries also. It grew, and it wasn't easy, because there were times that we struggled also, and I had to take out loans again to even pay salaries. The recession 2008 hit, and then 2010 was the most difficult for us. But we pulled through. I believe that we are among the best, one of the best three wedding decorators, designers within the whole Gulf at the moment. So I think we've done well.
Yeah, fantastic. And how was your experience with dealing with the customers and that wedding planning, right? When you're in the business of wedding, where the bride especially has a lot of dreams about her wedding, and there's a lot of demands, right? So how was that experience dealing with the customers?
Well, luckily, the dealing with customers is done by my wife, but I play a big role in dealing with customers also, and it's not easy. Our slogan is is this: we create dreams and we immerse you in it. So my personal view is that we have grown and we have gained this kind of reputation that we have through making sure that we put ourselves in the place of the client, and we see them going through the process and enjoying the setting that we create. This is where we don't compromise on quality. This is where, once we have the deal sealed with the client, we never think of saving money or cutting down on cost and so on. We sometimes put in money from our own pocket just to deliver what we have promised to the client. So I think dealing with clients with the mindset that you are there to help them, you are there to make sure that they get what they want, helps a lot in dealing with them. It makes things much easier. And they ease up. What I noticed is that once you show them that you are authentic, you show them that you want their benefit and their happiness, they ease up also, and they are much easier to deal with, much more lenient.
Yeah. And were you only dealing with doing Emirati weddings, or was it also other culture, other type of
Yeah.
weddings as well?
So we basically do weddings for anyone who comes to us. We have done Indian weddings, we have done Iranian weddings, we have done Lebanese weddings, but predominantly 95% or probably more than that is Emiratis. Uh, we are well known within the Emirati community, and we have based our business model on a word of mouth sort of client acquiring. We don't advertise. We have a channel within the social media, but we don't advertise to get clients. We have a very close community client base. Emiratis go to each other's weddings. And once they see the job that we have done, the good work that we have done, praise from the customer themselves, then they come to us for getting something which is similar.
Yeah. So at a wedding, when there are guests, the guests are also noticing what you've done, the work that you're doing there, and the guest, any guest who at the wedding who is also has a wedding coming up in their family, they know that okay, this is they're always on the lookout, right? And then they know that okay, this is the wedding
Absolutely.
you want to go to.
And we have many families who who have brothers and sisters doing the weddings with us, so they come back again for their siblings and their relatives.
Brilliant, brilliant. And how was the hiring process? Because initially you had, like you said, you had 3 people, but eventually you must have grown your team. And when was that you decided, okay, now it's time to hire more people? And
Right. Well, it happened gradually. I'm a big proponent of not growing exponentially, although the business might require it. And probably what made us prevail during COVID, because being in the event industry, you close down the first because everything in events is about gatherings. So we closed the first and we opened last during the COVID pandemic time and so on. So it happened gradually, and we have around a base of 25 to 30 people in the company now, and I'm not planning to grow it, but within the sets that we work with, and by the way, we cannot work within small hall settings. Like, we don't do weddings in small halls. Most of our weddings are within exhibition halls. So Dubai World Trade Center exhibition halls, we can go anywhere from 1 to 5 exhibition halls at a time.
wow.
Yeah.
And
So
why so? You said that you cannot work with the smaller ones because you're focusing on the bigger ones. But is there a particular reason why small ones don't work?
yeah, simply because our sets are very elaborate, and we require booking the hall a few days in order for us to do a good job. Most of the small hotels give you the hall 6 o'clock in the morning, and they expect you to finish at 7 at night. There are sometimes that we have been working on the set for 2 straight months. That gives you a perspective
For a wedding.
on yeah, that gives you a perspective on how big it is, how detailed it is, and the families that come to us, the weddings are quite big. So our average number of attendees is 500 people. And it goes to, we've done weddings for 4,000.
Wow.
So there's no way it could be accommodated in small halls. And, we don't repeat designs. This is probably our niche that we have new concepts for each and every wedding.
Wow. How do you manage to do that? You've been doing it for 20 years and not
Yeah,
to repeat designs. This is brilliant.
yeah,
So, like, do you have a team that comes up with the creative ideas of
yeah,
each wedding?
yeah. We have a strong design team. We also have an in-house workshop. Most of the wedding designers don't have their own workshop. They subcontract everything that comes their way. Uh, we have our own workshop. We have joinery, we have paint rooms, we have CNC cutting machines. So everything that needs to do with the decoration, we do it in-house, partly because they are big. Then we subcontract, but then we control the quality of things, and we control costs also. So I think that's something that we have a niche on other wedding designers.
Yeah. Yeah. And Kala Murad, you mentioned that you also have other businesses that you're running. Tell us about that. When did you start other businesses, and what kind of how did you expand?
See, I told you that my wife is my partner, and way back in the days that I was in the police, uh, she was thinking of opening a business, and one of the things that she thought about was opening a beauty salon. Today, there's a beauty salon in each and every turn of the street, but those days there were very little, and she was good in makeup. So she said I wanted to start a beauty salon, and we opened a small beauty salon for her, and it actually grew. As we were going along the way, what complements a beauty salon is a fashion label, and therefore we thought of an idea which was not available in the UAE at that time. We thought of dealing with Indian designers and open a fashion label here. So we got in touch with one of the biggest fashion designers now in India. People like Rohit Bal, like JJ Balaya, like Ashish Soni, a lot of them who are very well known.
Yeah.
And we actually opened a boutique here for their designs and collections.
Yeah.
And as we went along, we found that there is a need for the local touch, the Arabic touch, into the designs. And this is where we started our own label, which is called Zarina, in the name of my wife. And we started a production house in India. So we had a production house in India, in Delhi. So if you ask me about Delhi, I know each and every corner
Really?
of Delhi and the fashion factories and so on. And we established the label. We believe it's very well known within the community also. So that is where the fashion label started. It still continues till today. And we do very high-end niche outfits. And probably that is what led us to do niche weddings also. So everything that has to do with women, who pay much more than men, by the way, we have ventured into. And it's a good mix that we have started these businesses. The industrial laundry, I am running it on behalf of my brothers because we had inherited it from our late father. And we cater to hotels. We do linens. We do have retail outlets for doing retail laundry also.
Right.
Yeah, so
So,
quite exciting.
so yeah, and it's a busy life, right? Like as an entrepreneur, as a businessman, you've got so many businesses to run and
Yeah,
manage. I have one question on that. The way you spread your day, right? You're into your wedding business, in your fashion label business, and your other industrial laundry business, and so on. How do you rejuvenate yourself? How do you take a break sometimes, and like do you do that sometimes to just recharge your battery?
absolutely. I think recharging is something that is essential for each and every one of us, regardless of uh, what we do or how much time we spend. I think recharging is essential, and will let you go on for a very long time. Uh, one of one of the key aspects that I believe is essential for leadership is health. And I don't see a lot of people talking about becoming healthy if you want to be successful in business. One of the examples that I give is Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs passed away at the age of 53. Now, imagine if he had stayed on for many, many years after the age of 53. How would the iPhone look like? How would life look like with new uh, inventions that he might have introduced? So I think, in any journey, it's important for you to build up the stamina and the ability to sustain. And without health, it's not going to be as efficient, as successful that it would be with health. So I make sure that health is a big part of my daily life, and the recharge that you talked about. We take a break every now and then to just stay away from the business. Not that it's easy and not that it's possible because you get calls all the time. But having the mindset is what would make the change.
Yeah, and I want to touch upon a little bit more on the health factor here because it's so important. Like you said, you've highlighted the importance of health to be successful in this. So, what's your as a police officer, as an ex-police officer, and as a as a disciplined businessman? What's your exercise tip or health tip for people? What should people
Mhm.
do on a daily basis?
Mhm. Well, I think it's the three pillars that everyone is talking about: nutrition, exercise, and sleep. And you have to be disciplined into giving yourself enough of the three, and the right sort of nutrition when we are talking to about nutrition, in order to get your life straight. By the way, you know, I am so engrossed into health and nutrition. I have taken two health coach certifications from two different institutes. Each one had a year of studying behind it. Not because I want to make it a career for me, but just because I wanted to understand more. What does it take to be healthy? How would you maintain your body? How is your gut is a big factor in maintaining health and so on. So, what I say, if you want to know about something, you need to research well and you need to learn enough in order for you to do justice to it. And it's the same with health. You need to understand enough in order for you to be a better, healthier person.
Absolutely. Well, and that's a very important lesson you've given us here. Also, looking back at your life in these two phases of your life, right? One as a lieutenant colonel in the police, and then as a businessman. Um, what do you see as the key difference between being an employee versus being an entrepreneur, being your own boss?
Being an employee is much, much easier. But being an entrepreneur and being your own boss is much, much more fulfilling. And it's filled with excitement, and it's filled with unroutine. So if you wanted to be challenged, if you wanted to be able to venture into things that are unknown, and the euphoria that you get when these things are successful, and I'm not saying that everything is successful, everyone is going to be successful, or every business is going to be successful. In fact, when I had the police career, I had opened a computer software and hardware company, and that failed. So it's not that it's all rosy, but it's all exciting when you have your own business and you follow your own challenges rather than be driven by organizations that have their own way, have their own policies, have their own procedures. And it's very difficult to change things when you are an employee, as opposed to when you have your own business and you are the decision maker.
Right. As a businessman, as an entrepreneur, you're able to make your a lot of impact in your own way.
Yeah,
Really.
and when I was thinking of retirement, I was talking to a few friends of mine, police officers also, and said, "What do you think if I ask for voluntary retirement?" And everyone, without exception, they told me, "You must be crazy. You have a high-ranking job, a career that could continue forever, and you are thinking of going into retirement, and you don't know what will happen to you." But my focus was very clear, that I've done what I need to do within the job. I have given what I can give within my capacity, to my country, to my city, to my job. It's now time to move on. And the thing is that for everyone, there will always be this time that they will know that it's time to move on. It's not right for someone to leap into the unknown without a bit of calculation, without knowing that you have a backup. If I didn't have the pension to back me up, probably I wouldn't be able to sustain and take loans with a guarantee of my pension in order to start business, grow the business, and so on. So, yeah, risk is involved, but calculated risk is important.
Yeah. There was one question I wanted to ask you earlier, but then in the flow of the conversation, I did not ask it, and that was about that loan. So the first loan that you took for the 250,000 that they gave you. What was the repayment like? Like, did they tell you that every month you have to pay an EMI, or was it like a later on period that you can repay the loan?
Yeah,
later on.
I believe, if my memory serves me well, there was a grace period where you didn't have to repay, and they gave you sort of incentives. So you didn't have to pay the 3,000 dirham guarantee per employee in the labor those days. Now we have insurance, but those days you had to pay 3,000 dirham per employee They gave you a waiver on the trade license fees and so on. So there were a couple of things that helped a lot in the, I think it was a year or 18 months that you didn't have to repay.
Right, right. So, and this is a message to the audience, and especially for the Emiratis, that I'm not sure if this was open for everyone. This was a scheme for the Emiratis, right? So,
Yes.
if you're an Emirati and you want to start a business, listen to that part again. Colonel Murad has mentioned the name of the scheme, and I mean, it's been years now, so things must have changed. But
Yeah.
definitely, these kind of schemes will be available. So do approach the banks, and there's support available from the banks, from the government.
I mean, for non-nationals, there are so many VCs available, and there are so many programs. I know that Etisalat has a venture capital program that they connect with VCs and they bring in those entrepreneurs and do interviews and scrutinize the business and so on. So it's not confined to UAE nationals right now. It's open for everyone. UAE has opened up and changed a lot.
Yeah, that's the beauty of UAE. And I want to ask you about your journey, like right from the child who wanted to wear the uniform to the businessman that you are now, with decades of experience. Who would you like to? Who are the people that you would like to thank or give credit to on your way?
Mm-hmm. Well, family comes first. So, my father for wearing the uniform before me and leading the way, and my mother who was with me, with us as brothers and sisters, right from the beginning, very close to us. Uh, at the age of 77 now, she still thinks of us like we are small children. Uh, and my wife, because she's been a great supporter. She's a part of the business, and she's almost half of the business. So she has been instrumental in the success of the businesses. And then I have a couple of bosses that I had in the police who taught me a lot. And I always talk about those people whom I assign and I call undercover mentors, because they are unannounced and they don't know that they are my mentors, but I follow them, I see them, I see their behavior, how they lead teams, and so on. A couple of them were the directors of the services and supplies, where the ambulance was under. It was an administration under the services and supplies. Two of the heads of the services and supplies had a big role in molding me and making me realize how to run big teams. And after that, I'm really indebted to the employees that have been with us since inception. We have 3 people who have been with us for 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and they endure a lot of things, being into the events and all the stress and all this things happening over and over again, and the shouting and so on. But they have been with us for 20 years, so I'm indebted to them for the success of the business, even the other businesses. Yeah, so a big number of people that have played a big role.
Yeah, yeah. And it's so nice of you to include the employees of the organization also in that list. And I really love that. It's like they're part of the family now, right? Because they've been with for 20 years.
We treat all of our employees like family, and we care for them. And I always tell them, leave the business side aside, but you are part of the family. So if there is anything we could do for you, if you are into problems and so on, come to us, because we are there for you like you have been there for us.
Absolutely. So, sir, one last question. Actually, this is not the last question. There is one more question coming up after this one. But for the audience, the people who are watching this and are have a wedding in their family coming up, and they want to reach out to you for planning their wedding, what's the best way to reach out to you?
Well, we have our Instagram account, which is Tanseeq Weddings, Tanseeq Weddings, all one word. We have our website. You could contact us through the email info@tanseeq.ae. I always say, if you are not Googleable, then you are not worth contacting. So you can find us on Google, and you will find a way of getting in touch with us.
Brilliant, brilliant. We're gonna include your Instagram handle and your website and your email in the description for YouTube and in the show notes for the podcast. But guys, the best and the easiest way to find Colonel Murad is just Google. Just Google Mohammad Murad and you'll find him. And sir, one last question as we conclude here. How was your experience being on the Be Your Own Boss podcast?
I always, judge interviews by how easy it was and what was the flow of the interview. You make things easy, Sachin. So, and you see me smiling probably all the time. That is because I'm comfortable. And even within the businesses, I always say that we have to have the person in front of us comfortable in order for them to be able to convey messages properly. And I think you have done that. Your questions are placed very well during the conversation. And you've let me talk. I know it was a bit of lengthy sort of examples, but you let me convey them fully. So thank you for that.
Now it was, in fact, I want to hear more. So this is like, it's the more the better. So we just I want to keep listening. But thank you so much for that feedback. Really appreciate that, and it means a lot to me. And thank you for taking our time and coming on the show, sharing your journey and your story with us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that was Colonel Murad, Mohammad Murad, the past international president of Toastmasters International, ex-police officer, and the founder of Tanseeq Event Organizers and several other businesses. And you've been watching and listening to Be Your Own Boss.